Hello, and welcome back to Passion on Purpose. So today's episode is about how to know for sure if you found your purpose. So no matter where you are right now, whether you're feeling lost or if you've just finished school and you're about to start your career, or if you've already had 10 or 20 years even under your belt in your career and you're starting to rethink your purpose. You may feel like you've never even found your purpose to begin with, or you're lucky enough to have found your purpose and you're just feeling like something's missing. This video is for you. By the end of this video, you are going to know how to implement the 4 elements that are critical to the mindset that will change everything for you. My name is Jasleen, and I'm a career business and mindset coach and founder of Dialogue. In my practice, I actually use this mental model with my clients to really do a deep dive to explore and understand where my client is at, to see what areas we need to focus on to really get them on the right path to finding their purpose. In the old days, mapping out your career was really about assessing you and judging you and putting you in a box. But this model is really about carving out your own path. It's not about fitting you into a box, because we weren't meant to be put in boxes. It is more about creating a model that starts with you, looks at what you're capable of and where your potential will grow into. It's using growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset, if you are familiar with Carol Dweck's work. I don't believe that we just have one true calling in life. I believe that there is a zone, and you will see in this video what I mean by that. But first, I just want to talk about what are some of the signs that maybe you haven't found your purpose. So you might be clicking on this video because you feel undervalued. You might not be making the income that you thought you were going to make when you started on your current path. You may be feeling burnt out. You're putting in all this effort and you just feel like you're burning out and it's not sustainable. And you know that, how could that be my purpose if I am feeling this way all the time? Because we should always be growing into the person who is going to be able to follow that purpose. So another sign might be that you're bored. You simply are just going through the motions, buying your time and thinking about what other options there could be out there. So if you feel like you're ready to really commit to a career niche or a business niche and really stop doubting whether you're going down the right path to begin with, then this video is for you. So the reason I know that this model works is because I've used it in my life, and I've taken from positive psychology models that have worked and been empirically tested over time, and I've also been looking at Japanese philosophy, so the model of Ikigai that comes from a region in Japan where we see the happiest people. So if you follow this model, I am certain that not only will you feel like you found your purpose and you're making an impact, but you will also see the profit that you want, you will attract the money that you want to your life, and you will be doing so in a way where you're fulfilled and challenged, but not burning yourself out. The other thing I wanted to mention, there's this book by Bonnie Ware that is called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. So she was a hospice nurse in Australia, and she studied people at the end of their lives. And the top regret of the people that she studied was that they did not have the courage to follow their true purpose in life. If that's not motivation enough for you to watch this video, then I don't know what is. For me, the reason why I shared that the reason why this really resonated for me and why I've been so focused on this model is because I had a near-death experience myself. I've shared this before. When my twin boys were born, I had a very rare liver complication and ended up in the ICU. And when I woke up, there was this palpable clarity around how I was seeing the world differently. The best way to explain that is as if there was like this fog in my life before this experience, and now just coming close to death, realizing that fog was really me living in fear of judgment of other people, expectations, fear of failure, and letting that guide my choices rather than making those decisions based on my own internal values or my internal compass. Even though that fog was lifted after that experience, that fog tended to creep back in, and it still does in my life. So this model serves as a guide for me when I'm feeling misalignment to say, okay, what is it that's missing? Why am I not feeling like I'm living in my purpose? So that's really why I want to share it with you today. In that model, there are 4 elements that are critical to the mindset around living in this zone of your purpose. So the first area is really around understanding your strengths. What are you really good at? What comes naturally to you? There's a difference between our innate strengths and skills that we develop over time. There's a lot of skills that we can learn, but if it is outside of our innate abilities or our innate desires even, we tend to burn out. So what are those signature strengths that you would have even seen these as a child? When you are using those, you're feeling like you are excelling, and that is just almost like it's coming naturally to you. The second area of this model, or the purpose plan as I like to call it, is challenges. So is the work that you're doing, do you find it challenging? Not to a point where it is excruciating and you feel uncomfortable even when you've practiced something over and over and over again, but is it challenging enough that it's moving you toward mastery so that you're not just staying at the same skill level? And the reason why I've added this to the model, because if you look at the Japanese model of Ikigai, it's not even in there. I took this from positive psychology. There's a concept called flow. When you see your highest strengths meeting your highest challenges, that's when you really start to enter this state of flow. A lot of musicians experience this when they're really just almost like they're in the music and time ceases to exist. And it's not to be confused with when you've got hyper focus, like having a Netflix binge or something like that. This is really when you get lost in your work and it really almost feels effortless, but still challenging enough to keep your focus. The positive psychologist that has studied this, I wanted to mention his name. It's a really hard one to pronounce, but it's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He's studied this for years, and it's a phenomenon that I have experienced myself in my work. And when you're in that zone, it's magical. People around you can actually see that you're in that state because you are bringing your strengths and you're bringing that challenge, and it's quite inspiring. So the third area in this model is your passion. So this channel is called Passion on Purpose, and it's interesting. A lot of people have this idea around finding your purpose, that you just follow your passions and it will lead you to your purpose. And I think that's somewhat true. But when you think about it, passion is really an emotion. So passion is more the fuel for you to be on the path of your purpose. The purpose is really the why. Like, why are you even on this path? That's where the 4 categories come in. But you do need to be able to explore those passions and understand what those are to bring those along with you. A couple questions that really help you figure out what your passion is in a meaningful way is, what breaks your heart? Who is it that you really are passionate about serving? Who are you fighting for? So the final piece of this puzzle is the market needs. All of this has to connect to something outside of ourselves. It has to be bigger than us. And when I say that, I think when people think of purpose, they think it has to be so grand, and it really doesn't. There just needs to be a need out there. There has to be a need where what you're uniquely qualified and positioned and passionate about filling, it needs to be there. So in order to find your purpose, there either needs to be a need that you can fill or a business that you can create around that. And maybe it's around creating a need that didn't exist before, because the world is always changing. And that's another reason why I love this model, because when we get around this concept of, okay, I only have this one true purpose, and we treat it like it's, finding the one, when we are looking for that partner we want in life, we tend to get discouraged if things don't work out, because when we feel like we found our purpose and then things aren't working out, it doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't find our purpose, but it could be that, the world is changing and the market changes. So if you're watching this video and you've lost your job or your industry is becoming more redundant, that can be a really stressful thing. But when you're just recognize that a lot of those strengths, your passion and what you find challenging work is actually not changing that much through life. It might, and that's okay too, but it really needs to be aligned to that market need. I also want you to pay attention to how these elements in this model interact with one another. So I already mentioned when your highest strengths meet your highest challenges, that's when you have flow. On the flip side of that model, when you have a lot of passion and market need, that's when you have meaning. That's where you find meaning. And one of the reasons I actually call my company Dialogue is because the ancient meaning of dialogue actually translates to flow of meaning. So if you have all of these elements in the diagram, you've got flow, you've got meaning, and that's when you find your purpose. There's always going to feel like there's something missing. It could be that you're missing money if you don't have the market need. You could be bored if you're not adequately being challenged. It's also really important to know how, when you are using your strengths and that's aligned to your passions, that's a good thing, because your strengths and your passions meeting is awesome, but you might be in a job where people are not paying you what you're worth, or you've started a business and you're not seeing that money rolling in. If you're seeing that you're really being challenged and there's a market need, so people are pulling on you for that work, but you don't have the strength that you're bringing to it, that's where you're going to see burnout, because you're operating outside of your comfort zone for too long. And don't get me wrong, it is really good to be out of your comfort zone when you're growing in an area where you're uncomfortable, where you have those limiting beliefs and those doubts in your mind. But when it's not aligned to your signature strengths, it doesn't matter how much practice, how long you're operating in that space. If there's too much misalignment in terms of your values and internal preferences, then you will burn out. And trust me, because I burnt out really hard in my job. I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I had a 10-year career in HR, and I was being pulled to work on certain things that were really important, and on some days, on my good days, I was really good at it, but because it wasn't in my zone of comfort, it did cause me to burn out. And there were other factors in play, because there are multiple factors that can lead to burnout, but this is a surefire way. If you're really not using any of your strengths and you've got no passion there to fuel you, and you're really getting pulled on to deliver, that is a place you just really, honestly, trust me, you do not want to be. For a lot of people who are multi-passionate, there's a huge community now of multi-passionate entrepreneurs with multiple income streams and who care about a lot of different things, and they can seem like they're not focused. But as long as you're aligning all of those things to a very specific need or problem that is out there in the world, then the profit and the fulfillment and the success will follow. So hopefully that model is of use to you. I'll invite you to kind of look at this model and think about what part of this are you more sure about, and what part are there pieces that are missing for you. And I'll invite you to comment below, take an action today in exploring a little bit deeper in one of these categories. So even if you're on your path and you think, okay, yeah, actually I am on the right path, but lately I'm on a learning curve, or there's something that's sort of stirring you up inside. Perhaps it's because you forgot why you got into this to begin with. Let that be a reminder. But if there is an area where you need to focus on right now, commit to that and take even one small baby step of how you're going to explore deeper, or how you're going to move more into that zone, so that you see the perfect overlap of all 4 of those elements, so you're operating in that zone of your purpose. If you like this video and you know anyone else who could use this model, please do share this video, because I do think it's really important. If we all operate from this kind of mindset, I believe we could change the world, because we're conditioned in society to follow the money, and money is important, don't get me wrong. But if you follow this model, it's not an either or. It's about having the purpose and that strength to lead others into following their purpose, but also having that profit follow because you are meeting that need that's out there in society. So please share this. And if you like this video, please subscribe, like, comment, and even let me know if there's anything else that was missing in this model for you that maybe I could create something around that would be of use for you. So until next time, keep your passions alive and follow your purpose.